Welcome to episode 199 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Nitro Madness edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, a gentleman and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
I'm doing great, Phil. Of course, got the last week of the regular season here in our fantasy league, and it's getting pretty tight, and I think we're both going to make it in the playoffs, so good there. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about in racing, of course, and a lot of NFL stuff as well. Jaguars took an L yesterday, so we'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the NFL a lot tonight because it's kind of a transition week motorsports-wise. Everything is basically done. Banquets and award ceremonies have gotten through. So we'll talk about football. There's 2 Monday Night Football games going on as we speak. The Miami Dolphins hosting the Tennessee Titans. Battle of 2 AFC teams. One that's trying to barely stay alive in the playoff hunt versus a team that is could be the presumptive number one seed if they win tonight. Then in the other matchup, it's the New York Giants hosting the Green Bay Packers, one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, with Jordan Love going on the road to the Meadowlands to play Chicken Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, and see if the Giants can win 3 games in a row and keep their absolutely, barely there playoff hopes alive. So we have that. We will talk about all things going on from NFL Week 14 for our actual teams, fantasy football teams. We'll go into the playoff situation in both the AFC and NFC. We'll also talk about where we're at in the Fall Brawl League, how that'll all go. If things stay as they are, there's a chance that it'll be myself and Josh playing starting Thursday night for in the first round of the playoffs. So that'll be, I think, the 3rd time we've played each other this year. So that'll be interesting. And then we'll also talk about who is in the Caleb Williams Drake May sweepstakes. Drake May has already announced that he's not going to play the bowl game for North Carolina, which for all intents and purposes means that he's going to declare for the NFL draft. We'll go and talk about IndyCar and the hybrid situation as Jordan Love makes a horrible throw and gets picked off. IndyCar, the hybrid is delayed. They're going to delay till after the Indianapolis 500. And there's also an issue with Honda talking about quitting after 2026 because of the cost basis and the lack of a third engine supplier, which the idiot sticks at 16th and Georgetown have been talking about for God knows how many years and have failed miserably at doing that. And whatever else comes up in the world of racing that way. Josh will let us know all things going on in iRacing and gaming in the sim segment, and we'll close the deal. So first thing we'll talk about, Tony Stewart, of course, being one of my favorite race car drivers ever, and one of my motorsports heroes. Iconic drivers, driven everything, and basically won in almost everything that he's been in. Last week at the Performance Racing Industry show in Indianapolis, announced with his wife, Leah Pruett, that he will... Well, essentially, Leah Pruett announced that she was going to step away from driving in Top Fuel after drag racing for the last, 27 years of her life, since she was 8 years old. She's been drag racing and had her best year of her Top Fuel career had a chance to win the Top Fuel Championship at Pomona. But finished third in points, lost in the final to Doug Coletta, the eventual champion. And so she has announced that she will step away from the driver's seat to start a family with Tony. And in turn, Tony Stewart will be taking over that Top Fuel Dragster after he spent last year driving in the top alcohol dragster category, finished second in national points, won a race at Las Vegas. So he won a bunch of awards last year in the Lucas Oil drag racing series, and so it's a big name, big move. One of the biggest news stories in recent history, I think, in NHRA. It's not unprecedented in NHRA for a driver to leave in their prime and decide to start a family. Ashley Force Hood did it, and because with her husband Danny Hood, to go and have their two sons, and she stopped to end up being the president. Now she's the president of John Force Racing. She does social media. She's a big social media part of JFR. And then Courtney Force also stopped driving in recent years with her because she wanted to start a family with her husband, Graham Rahal. And now you see her most of the time at the IndyCar races, of course, with their two daughters. And when she has time and when they have time as a family, they go and support the family at the drag strip also that way. So it's not unprecedented in the world of drag racing, of course. Shirley Muldowney did it. A lot of the ladies that have been in the NHRA and been competitive, Angel Sampay is another one, has done that too. So it's not unprecedented, but it's huge news because it's Tony Stewart. And it's huge news because Leah Pruett's coming off of her arguably her best year of her career. So, I mean, for me, I was super excited. It's crazy to think that Tony is still going to be driving. I thought his really super competitive driving career was over back a few years ago. It wasn't like he was the most competitive, to be fair, when he ended his Cup career. SRX came along and he was able to go and dovetail that and win a championship, and he's able to win here and there these last few years in the summer. But we haven't really been able to see Tony driving a whole hell of a lot. So it's made it tough on me as a fan. I know a lot of us Tony Stewart fans, we miss having that presence. And it's like for you, Josh, I know with Dale Jr., you only really get a handful of opportunities to see him drive now. You know, he picks a couple of Xfinity Series races. Now he's starting to run late model races because he runs the Cars Tour. But you can really count the amount of races he's going to do on one or two hands. Jeff Gordon stopped completely and got fat. Jimmy Johnson is doing different things, and now he's going to be running a handful of races in Cup next year for Legacy Motor Club, and then who knows what else he's going to be doing because he's got to deal with Toyota. You got other guys that have retired over the years, but I don't think when I became a fan of Tony Stewart that I thought that when he was 52 years old that he was going to become a NHRA Top Fuel drag racer. But it's not shocking that a guy who from the first moment of his life was driving a race car as a baby and has been driving. His driving has been his whole life. Racing has been his whole life. That he found drag racing and he found his wife in the process doing it. I mean, for me, it was not, I mean, it's not total surprise, but I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think it's a surprise because Tony Stewart's going to be a dad. I think that's the one piece. Tony Stewart driving, no, that's not a surprise. Tony Stewart ending up getting up to Top Fuel when he runs a Top Fuel and Funny Car program, and his Funny Car driver just won the championship is not shocking at all. The fact that he's going to be a dad at 52 is hilarious. And he already talked about it on Speed Freaks, where how he's going to handle when Leah's in the hospital getting ready to give birth to their child, how he's going to be, what he's going to be doing, and versus what Leah's going to be in the room, and how all that's going to be. And they went and reposted that on their Instagram. So if you want to go and watch that, that is really funny. I shared it on my Instagram feed, and Tony's comments on how they handle the baby and everything, it just made me laugh. But I guess for you, Josh, what did you think about when you heard that Tony is going to be driving Top Fuel starting next year and at least for the foreseeable future?
I mean, I think I had the same reaction as you there with the news. Really, it's not really that he's becoming a drag racer, but because he's already kind of been moonlighting in that anyways, but that, he's going to start a family with his wife. So I think that's kind of the big takeaway of that, is that, he's going to have a kid and try to have a kid and be a dad. So that's kind of what I was kind of surprised, because he's pretty. I mean, he's over 50 yet, and he finally settled down and everything. So didn't think that he would kind of have that lifestyle, but he's going to. So hopefully that all goes smoothly and everything. But I think also the other thing is what do we make, once he takes his attention into drag racing, it's going to be interesting to pay attention to the performance of his Cup team, with Stewart Haas and how they perform. Obviously, they haven't performed, that well the last couple of seasons, and I mean that's not not putting that on Tony, but it will be interesting to see the performance of the team as he is focused on drag racing and everything. So obviously they've got people in place to kind of run that organization for him, so he doesn't have to be all hands on. But at the same time, I think you can't help but wonder what that will look like once he's full time into drag racing. But he's already been drag racing a ton, the last, basically since he's been with Leah Pruett. So I don't think it's really going to change that much. But now that it's a full time job, it's going to be interesting to see. And I think the other thing is, you talk about his resume. Obviously, Cup driver, stock cars, dirt racer, obviously, and had his All-Star Series of Champions that he was running. And you wonder if this also factored into that decision to give that up and sell it off to Kyle Larson, if he's kind of consolidating there, and so he can focus on the drag racing and being a dad and all that stuff. He's done the dirt racing stuff, was an IndyCar driver at one point, so now he's going to be a drag racer. So kind of going back to that throwback of drivers who were able to go out and race anything. So now he's adding to that resume, or he's already has, and now he's going to do it full time.
Yeah, no, it's a good point you bring up with him, with not only SHR and the All-Star Circuit of Champions, that's now the High Limit Sprint Car Series, with Larson and his brother-in-law, Brad Sweet, the 5-time consecutive World of Outlaws champion. All those things definitely are in play. You look at, he has Tony Stewart racing in sprint cars with the great Donnie Schatz, a 10-time World of Outlaws champion and 10-time winner of the Knoxville Nationals. And they just made a decision that they're going to stay with the World of Outlaws. So what is gonna, that team and how that's going is, it's been its own independent entity for a while. It has Tony's name on it. He's a funding. He definitely is a support. He does a supporting part and provides equipment and different things, but it's really Donnie Schott's program, and he does it in concert with the support of Tony Stewart. So that's how that works. I think in terms of SHR, that definitely is valid with how bad they've been for the last, 3 years. Last 3 years, because in 2020, Kevin Harvick won 9 races and should have been in the final 4, and they spit the bit. So, they haven't announced that Noah Gregson's going to be taking over the 10 car yet. They don't have any sponsors and we're going to mention sponsorship news here in the Cup, Xfinity, all that here in a few moments' time. They haven't announced a sponsorship package for Josh Berry. Chase Briscoe is basically the only one that we can actually quantify has a sponsorship package for 2024. And it's a lot of the returning people that he already has, some of the people that he cultivated on his way up to the Cup Series and now in the Cup Series. Brian Preece is going to continue, of course, next year, as DeAndre Hopkins made that catch. That was a big catch, and he gets out of bounds. Green Bay also is in the red zone. So with 19 seconds to go, Green Bay's in the red zone. Tennessee now falling away. He kept the control of it. He was able to keep control of it, and then he got up, got out of bounds. Great catch. DeAndre Hopkins bringing it back. Old school there, but the SHR team, what they're doing and what they're about, where they're going to be in 2024. What are we supposed to think of that when Tony's main focus is going to be driving his Top Fuel Dragster, which of course, he runs a Ford program in NASCAR and in the World of Outlaws. And then he's going to be driving a Mopar sponsored program in the NHRA. So what goes on with that? But at the end of the day, the last person, oh man, that is so bad. He got away with that one. Will Levis completely got away with that one by going, and he threw that ball so badly that he threw it out of bounds, and that should have been an interception.
The worst red zone throws I've seen.
Yeah. He just got lucky. He threw it so bad that Xavier Howard couldn't get 2 feet down, because Xavier Howard made a great catch. So that is really bad decision, but then he's a Tennessee Titans quarterback, so it makes sense. I think we look at drivers that have gone to drag racing. A lot of these drivers have been drag racers first and foremost. That was their first thing that they did. John Andretti is the only person, the late John Andretti is the only person I can think of that has went to drag racing that was in pavement circle track racing or dirt track racing and went there. And he did all of that. And he drove the Taco Bell Dragster in 1993 when he drove everything. He drove NASCAR, he drove NHRA, he drove IndyCar. I don't know how many different series he ran in that year because he had lost his ride with Jim Hall in the IndyCar series. So this is the first time that somebody that's coming from the circle track world is going to have a full-time ride in the NHRA. There was other guys that were athletes, basketball players, football players. Dan Pastorini, the former quarterback, he was a Houston Oilers quarterback. He came over to drag racing, drove in Top Fuel. There were guys that were in pro stock over the years that ended up running in NHRA. So this will be an interesting way of see what happens with Tony. I don't think he would do this if he didn't think that he could be competitive. So, and I don't think he would do it if they thought that it's not a full on legacy thing, but I know that he wants to be competitive. I don't believe he thinks he's going to go out there and win a championship next year, but there has been a trend here in recent years in the NHRA where people who are coming in early in their careers have been able to do well. So we'll see what happens with that. I know one other thing that's going to happen is that whatever the middling ratings that NHRA gets on Fox and FS1, they're going to definitely go up because Tony Stewart is driving in Top Fuel next year. I think that'll definitely be a big addition. So we'll definitely look into that. We'll talk about it on the roundup a lot next year about what's going on with Tony and the Top Fuel series in the Top Fuel Dragster and the Mission NHRA drag racing series. Another big piece of news in a series that we definitely spent a lot of time on during the year is with the IndyCars and the IndyCar, the hybrid formula, I guess the hybrid components and everything being added on, the lack of testing time and lack of parts available have brought a delay to, excuse me, brought the IndyCar series to announce a delay of implementation from when they were going to have it start at St. Petersburg in March to now after the Indianapolis 500. So that'll be in June to go and spend more time testing and also get parts made so that everybody will have the parts necessary. I'm not sure why there's I don't know, that whistling sound is annoying. I don't know what the heck's going on in my ear, but the NHRA or in IndyCar will have to delay that, so that's bad news. It's coming on the heels of not now Honda also announcing that if things don't change cost-wise and if they're not able to find a third engine partner of some sort, that they're liable to go and leave after 2026. So Honda has been involved in IndyCar racing in some way, shape, or form since 1994. If you go and connect it back to when they even started testing, it was 1993. So they've been in IndyCar since 1994. So we're getting on 30 years next year, and with American Honda, and there's been a consolidation of Honda HPD across the world and all of their motorsports endeavors. So that includes IndyCar, that includes sports cars, that includes the Formula One, and it includes MotoGP. So Honda making that call or putting that out there, I think, should be a warning sign to IndyCar, but it's becoming a common theme here with the IndyCar and how Penske Group has been running IndyCar. It almost is like we thought that Penske Group was going to be the savior. There was going to be stability. There was going to be an opportunity to go and make a lot of these changes necessary to make it a not a worldwide series again, but make it a series that would have full-on relevancy in the world. And to be fair, it does, in that a lot of guys that are coming from Europe and the world stage are coming over to the IndyCar because there's no Formula One rides for them, or they're not looking to go to sports car racing yet. It is one of the most competitive series in all the world, but they're using a car that has been around since 2012, and it doesn't look like they're going to be replacing said car till 2027 at the earliest. This engine formula from more or less has been around since 2012 as well. I think, or 2014, I think they committed fully. Both Honda and Chevy were twin turbo. I think Chevy was a twin turbo from the beginning, and Honda was single turbo. Then Honda joined Chevrolet to be a twin turbo 2.2 liter engine. So you're talking about that. The engine has been the same engine for 10 years. But the costs are going up to run it, and you're adding a hybrid component to it. They don't want to change the chassis. They don't want to bring a new chassis or make a new one. You're getting to a point, even though there are 27 cars or 20 whatever cars in the field, which is the deepest field they've had in years. They don't want to seem to rock the boat. So, I mean, I guess, on the one hand, it's a bummer, but I'm not surprised, with how the hybridization deal going the way it did. Hybridization, we've been seeing it in the World Endurance Championship and in other form in the IMSA for a while. It's been you got Formula E, you got Extreme E, where now they're going to be they're going to be hydrogen powered vehicles. It's not an uncommon format, but connecting it to this and doing all this stuff, it's like, what are you really doing? And how you can't get it right when you've had this long to really figure it out speaks to kind of the ineptitude that exists at the top of the leadership structure at 16th and Georgetown with IndyCar, and the lack of awareness that's going on. But then I think secondarily, the lack of I think the investment in that the owners, it's starting to be the owners are controlling the situation again, in that they are dictating the fact that they don't want to have a new chassis. They're dictating that they don't want to change the engine formula. So now you're going and having this continue. It sounds like the split time all over again. And so, I guess I've said my part. I'm kind of rambled on here. I'm not shocked that the hybrid deal got delayed. I find it very interesting that Honda spoke out now when they now are about to get to 30 years involved in the IndyCar series in some way, shape, or form. That now is their breaking point. What are we to take of both? What are we to make of both of these things, Josh? In your mind?
Well, the thing with the hybrid engine is just why can't they open the engine package to allow the IMSA? I mean, this would solve Honda as well, but you have IMSA with both GM and Honda competing as Cadillac and Acura there with hybrid engines. Why can't they just implement or open the rules for them to just use the same engine package that they use in IMSA and in IndyCar? I don't understand that part. And so that's kind of, when you look at it like for cost savings, IMSA's doing a good job of having manufacturers in the series that are participating and that are willing to compete and everything, and they have a lot of stability there. And then you have Indy that has seemingly squandered a lot of opportunities, and I think the only thing that we can say that's actually good about IndyCar are the drivers and the racing. I think that's the only two things that are actually good about IndyCar. The rest of it is not great. And I mean, everything besides the racing, anything that has nothing to do with racing in IndyCar, the business aspect, the rules partially, and everything, like, yeah, there's a lot that they're not doing correctly, I think. I think for the IndyCar series, they're going to try hybrid engines and everything, and well, they're still producing the old style engines, and I'm like, well, why do we have to compete under two set of rules packages? It's hard. It reminds me in a way of the COT era in NASCAR, when you had the COT cars implemented for half the season with the regular cars that they had at the time, the old Gen 4 cars. And it was kind of a weird year where they had two sets of rules, and then eventually then they just like, no, we're gonna implement it for the full season from 2008 going forward, because I think the original plan was to only have it for a partial or 3/4 year in 2008, and then 2009 was when it was originally supposed to be implemented full time. So it's hard to compete with two set of rules. And I mean, I don't think they're going to be switching back and forth with the hybrids in IndyCar, but just the fact that you're going to be producing or supporting one engine for the first couple of races of the year, and then after the Indianapolis 500 will go to the hybrid engines. It's kind of, doesn't make sense to me. And then also you have the fact that you're delaying like the start of the season, or not the start of the season, but you're delaying like interest in the season, because I feel like you have a lot more interest that you can generate if you're starting the year off with a new engine package there. So that's kind of another criticism to look at. So yeah, the hybrid, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how that actually runs and how competition is, but yeah, at the same time, just how they're implementing it, just they're squandering their opportunities there. And then also Honda threatening to quit the series after 2026, which I think is more significant than the hybrid stuff, because they could still be around with all the hybrid stuff being delayed and everything. But the Honda potentially quitting is, I think, it's big news that they have to figure out a way to get that resolved, because if Honda leaves, like that'll probably start the death of the series, I think, in my opinion. So you have Honda leaving, and that's going to leave Chevy to support the entire series, which I don't know if they'd be able to do it. And I think at that point you'd have to rename the series the Firestone IndyCar Series presented by Ilmor. So that's what it's going to end up looking like, is they'll have to just like change the rules so that Ilmor is the branded engine in the series, which they already are making the engines for Chevy. They're just, Ilmor produced engines, and then Chevy just puts the badge on it and everything. So that's what it's going to end up looking like here in a few years. And I think, the IndyCar series, they pretty much exist for the sake of existing. I think at this point, the only reason this series even exists is to have a series centered around the Indianapolis 500. And, if you have manufacturers pulling out because, there's a lack of ROI on that, and, they're not getting what they want out of the series, there's not going to be a reason to have a series and everything. And I think it's I think they're going to figure out a way to at least hold the Indianapolis 500, but it's just going to be a difficult transition from what they have now to what it could look in the future. So it's going to be interesting to see how they resolve that, and hopefully they can figure out a way to get the series in the right direction. And I think a couple years ago, we were talking about Roger Penske owning the series, and we think there's going to be stability finally here and there'll be competency, and it looks like it's just kind of more of the same, but with a name name of the series that has been around for a while, so it hasn't looked all that different. So hopefully they can get it resolved, and we don't see them leave the series.
And it's funny how you were talking about the Firestone presents the IndyCar series
Champ Car.
powered by Champ. It's exactly what the Champ Car World Series was too. It was Bridgestone presents the Champ Car World Series, powered by Ford and presented by Ford, and yeah. So it was literally that just 20 years, nearly 30 years ago or whatever, or 20 years ago.
It's 20 years.
Yeah. So and then you think about the IRL was Firestone and Champ Car was Bridgestone. You had the Ford Cosworth power plant with turbos versus a normally aspirated cars, whatever, normally aspirated engines from Chevy Ilmore, Toyota and Honda, and the Dallara toilets that they started running in 2003 that went on till 2011. So, I mean, there is a precedent for a lot of what has gone on here. There's also a precedent for what might end up happening because of just lack of wherewithal from IndyCar. I mean, the delays with hybrid, as I said again, does not surprise me. It's a great point you made with the fact they're running two different rules packages. So what are you expecting these teams that are, right now they're running pretty lean. Ganassi, of course, isn't because they got 5 cars. Some of the smaller teams, it's more about the smaller teams. What are they doing? Well, how many people do they have? You think about Dale Coyne Racing doesn't even have a driver. AJ Foyt Racing doesn't have a driver announced yet. So what are they doing? And then you're going to expect them to manage 2 different testing programs, a non-hybrid testing program and an oval testing program, which of course they won't be running an oval until Indy. So that's its own other can of worms. But then you're running a hybrid program too. So we'll see what happens. I remember years ago with Robin Miller and him ranting about all of this stuff, and I think he's probably rolling around thinking about how bad that things have become when you have one of the best products in all of motorsports, and the racing is great. The racing's uber competitive. You have a lot of really talented drivers, and they just squander all of it. You don't promote it well. They don't handle media stuff very well. And the technology and a lot of the things that come with it are not up to date either. And somehow or another, Jim France has jumped ahead of them and got in front of them with all these OEMs, but not just all these OEMs. They also with the ACO, and they were able to make this convergence formula to where American prototypes, Daytona or IMSA-based prototypes, could go and run at Le Mans for the first time since 1993 or 94 or whatever the hell. I think it is basically 93. So that's going back 30 years, and they're going to say that's a helmet to helmet, or they're going to that he was, even though he was sliding, he was leading towards the head. Yeah.
That's they're not going to throw that penalty. Looks like,
but it looks like they let it go. But the moron bus bros there, yeah, they're on the Manning cast. I'm watching the Manning cast version right now. So,
wait, Garden's on there?
No, not the other bus bros. I forget, because isn't
Busing with the Boys?
Busing with the Boys, whatever the hell. Sorry, I mixed up podcast. fussing
Taylor
with the
Lewan.
boys, and Will Compton, the two fat tubs of shit. If Joseph Newgarden was on the Manning cast, that would be something. And Scotty McLaughlin because of his Australian or his Kiwi New Zealand accent. But I guess we'll find out. We'll see what happens with IndyCar and how they're going to handle business. But it's typical of IndyCar. You know, we're in December. They've been done since September of this year, and none of the news that's come out has been positive. And it wouldn't be IndyCar if that wasn't the case. So it's a shame that we're really having to talk about it in that way, but we're not. I keep on saying it. We shouldn't be surprised. In terms of other news, so we'll go to NASCAR with sponsorships and things like that. I mentioned a sponsor from Stewart Haas that is going to go elsewhere. Pizza Face is going to be sponsored by Hunt Brothers Pizza, Joey Logano, and then the defending series champion Ryan Blaney. They're going to be running Hunt Brothers Pizza on their Penske Fords next year. So that's another sponsor that moves away from Kevin Harvick and SHR to go elsewhere. The big one, of course, was Busch going to Ross Chastain. Cuckold University will be on, continue to be on Will Byron's car for 12 races. That isn't surprising to anybody. We mentioned so they finished the short track testing deal at Phoenix last week after we got done with our show. AJ Allmendinger returning to the Xfinity Series full time. Him and Josh Williams will run full time next year. I don't know if they're going to run the third car, or they're going to run the star car for the full year or not, but that's something we'll look at. Looks like there's a muffed punt on the Giants Green Bay game, so Giants recover that. Mostert gets tackled there. New president at Watkins Glen. Daytona paves the part of the backstretch where Ryan Preece took off like a NASA astronaut. Casey Kane running the full high limit schedule because, of course, his driver and co-owner of the series, Brad Sweet, is going to be running the full high limit series. Shane Van Gisbergen came out. They put out an announcement that he's going to be running at least 30 races in 2024, with a majority of those races being Xfinity, some truck races, and there's that's an interesting gimmick that Eli has there. He's going to be doing that. Of course, he's going to be running late models. I think they probably will run an ARCA race here and there. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs the Daytona ARCA 200 next in February. I think that would probably be a one to do. Not just because he'll get some experience, albeit it'll be bad experience, but at least he'll get experience on super speedways. So there'll be that. And then I don't know who that Goomba is that with the hat and whatever. I don't know who the hell that is. Must be his uncle or something. DeVito's uncle. He looks like a stereotype from a freaking Robert De Niro movie. There was a Kelly Blue Book will be on Clyde's car for 2 races next year. They showed the new Napa scheme, which gives me hope that they might actually run a Ron Hornaday throwback, but they probably won't because for whatever reason they're too stupid to do that. Ziegler Auto Group, which has been running as a sponsor for Josh Bilicki for the last couple of years, while he's been racing for Live Fast Motorsports and in the Xfinity series, now is going to be a primary sponsor with Carson Hocevar in the Cup Series on the number 77 Spire car. I think also, where else? Trying to find they announced the crew chiefs. I don't know where they announced the crew chiefs on the Cup side. I'm trying to, I lost track of where that was, I think. For the Spire team, because Carson Hocevar and what is it called? Zane Smith are gonna have different crew chiefs. So I'll go and do it this way. So the 71 car for Spire is gonna have Steven Doran, who will move over from SHR. He's worked for Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers for a bunch of years. So he'll be moving over to become a crew chief with Zane Smith. And then also Zane Smith will have Josh Williams as a spotter. Carson Hocevar is going to have Luke Lambert as his crew chief next year. And not sure who his spotter will be, but Luke Lambert moves over from, I think he was on the 42 car at Legacy last year. I think that's right. So he'll be moving over there. So that's all. Those are the other news things there on the Cup side. Xfinity side, Anthony Alfredo is gonna move over to Our Motorsports full time, and they'll be racing the number 5. They've been racing the 02 Chevrolet for a while, but now they'll be racing with the number 5. Dawson Cram, a former guest of the GSP, will be the first full-time driver announced for JD Motorsports next year. He'll be driving the 4 car. So that'll be interesting, and it'll be cool to see. Maybe we can angle to get him after we get around to the new year. That'll be something to look at. Maybe try to get some of these other guys. And so that's some of the news there. Formula One, on the Formula One side, Abby Poling returns for F1 Academy in 2024 after racing this year in F1 Academy. She'll continue to race for Rodin Carlin, and she'll be supported by Alpine and the Alpine Academy and BWT, so she'll have the pink car on the grid in F1 Academy. Get over to other news things here. I don't see any other. I don't see anything else big on the Formula One website. There's been some other news, NHRA, some announcements for drivers and teams and sponsors, but nothing of great significance. I think the one major item that came up on the NHRA for next year is that Chris Bostic is going to be racing. The Pro Stock motorcycle rider Chris Bostic is going to join the White Alligator Racing team with with Chase Van Zandt. That's White Alligator Racing is Jerry Savoy, the former Pro Stock motorcycle champion. So they'll be teammates next year. They'll be racing Suzuki's. So that'll be cool to see those two guys join each other and try to go and compete in a series that was basically the Gage Herrera Invitational last year. So that'll so we'll see with that. They got some other drivers now. Arizona Nationals Firebird Motorsports Park. I thought that they weren't going to be racing there anymore, but I guess they racing message or wanting to see driver remain proactive in imagining racing. Okay, so yeah, they said that they were going to close and they were going to stop there, but I guess now they're going to continue in Phoenix, so that'll be good. Jacob McNeil makes jump to top fuel team ownership, and Stavros something or another. Okay, so that's all done. When in racing, Callum Ilott, who got canned by Junko Solander, will move to World Endurance Championship to race for Jota Sport in one of their Porsches in the hypercar category. Matty Brabham will be racing for AO Racing in LMP2 in the endurance rounds. Bruno Famin will remain at Alpine as their team principal. He says, unless told to replace himself. Okay. Got some rally stuff. Some other stuff there. News and notes from IMSA, the Daytona test, Gen 4. There was a controversy where the FIA accused the Wolf meaning Toto Wolff and Susie Wolff, of some sort of insider kind of like information and colluding with information. So that blew up on the FIA. But it isn't shocking because the way the FIA is run, they're a joke. So now they're going and accusing one of the first couples in the world of, I guess, open wheel racing in Europe of trading information and trade secrets. Like, that's what they were going to do. It's pretty fucking stupid. But hey, it wouldn't be them if it wasn't for... it wouldn't be the FIA if they weren't doing stuff like that. Gen 4, experiment Gen and beta car with car unlike well, the formula, so they know what that car will be coming around in 2026, 2027, the Gen 4 cars. So they've got different manufacturers with that. Spark Racing Technologies, they built the chassis for the whole entire time. Podium Advanced Technologies from Italy, they'll be making the batteries. Morelli will continue to work with supplying the front powertrain, and the rear powertrain will be supplied by the individual OEMs, which is where all those OEMs come into. It'll be more powerful car. I think they're going to... there says what? So more output, 400 kilowatt output, softer tires, 3D printed bodywork elements. Oh, that'll be cool. We're investigating using the front powertrain kit and traction, as well as regen to allow for four-wheel drive in specific scenarios to ensure. Then looking even further to Gen 4, as we have to ensure Formula E remains at the forefront as a laboratory for future mobility. Okay. All right. Yeah, there's different different news there on nothing still working out. Yeah, so nothing big there. Yeah, there's gonna be it looks like a new BOP in GT for IMSA. Yeah, that should have went over there and looked at it. Yeah, cars. Yeah, F1 and Extreme E formed the hydrogen working group with the FIA. Dreyer and Reinbold is their Indy 500 entry is going to be, the drivers are going to be Connor Daly and Ryan Hunter-Reay. So as it stands, they haven't announced it officially, but that's what it looks like. It'll be Hunter-Reay, of course, ran for them last year at the Indianapolis 500, and Connor Daly, who was at Ed Carpenter Racing up until I think Detroit or whatever. I think after Detroit he got canned. So he'll be back. He'll be back running for Indy only program. So get there. New spec item. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. And yeah, that's what's going on Racer. I want to go and move motorsport.com. Yeah, there's nothing really Indra Benetton. Oh, so yeah, 1993. Yeah, that was okay. Iron out flaws for guy. What's it called? Ducati Gigi Dall'Igna, the GM for Ducati, speaking out about the concessions and after Ducati destroyed in MotoGP. He's not. He finds it. He talking about for the Japanese manufacturers, meaning so of course Honda, Yamaha, getting the help that they need to get back to being competitive. Doesn't agree with KTM and Aprilia having some level of concessions on their part or getting extra help on their part because they've been competitive and they were winning Grand Prix this year. But there has to be that's the give and take, I think, that comes with that concession formula, so that MotoGP in general will be more compelling because it's a Ducati benefit for the most part last year. Golf 12 hours, yeah. So they had the Golf 12 hours full faith in Mercedes after Lewis Hamilton after the prize giving ceremony, FIA finishing third in the Drivers' Championship, talking about his belief in the Mercedes team for the W15. That was another thing. Yeah, Proton Engineering will be racing the Mustang sampling car in IMSA next year, the number 5 Porsche. Thad Moffitt, who has been in ARCA a lot for many years, and then last year drove in Trans Am TA2, will be racing in a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series in 2024 for a new team. It'll be called Faction 46. They'll have an alliance with Nice Motorsports, and Doug George will be the crew chief. So interesting combination there. Moffitt will be competing for Rookie of the Year. So that'll be something we look at for the Truck Series, one of the first announcements that way. I sold Valentino Rossi, so Intercontinental GT John. Feels late race on the box costs his BMW a chance of victory. Sunday's golf 12 hours. Leading finale going to padlock. Finish second by 12.8 seconds. And it was a great weekend for us. Group M Racing's Mauro Engel, Lucas Stoltz, and Mikhail Grenier won the race with their Mercedes AMG over the Rossi BMW. And Jules Gounon finished third to claim the Intercontinental GT Challenge title, and another Mercedes. So one thing to see, because Valentino Rossi will be moving over to the World Endurance Championship next year with BMW. So to see the GOAT of Grand Prix motorcycle racing continue his rise in car racing, it'll be cool to see that. Alrighty. Let's get into NFL. In terms of week 14, we're still going on here. Just over 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Tennessee and Miami are tied at 10. Tennessee with the ball right now. The Giants and Green Bay Giants are up 14-13. And Giants have the ball right now. So interesting. Bob Papa on Sirius XM had picked which probably is a homer pick because he's from the area, but wow, that's not a bad looking broad on QVC. That was a completion to the tight end Bellinger. And right now, Giants up 14-13 in driving. But in this week, NFL recapping the scores from the week so far. We already talked about the Monday Night Football games. Thursday night, the Patriots beat the Steelers. The Patriots go to 3-10. Steelers knock themselves down to 7-6. Buccaneers hold off the Falcons to take the lead. There's a 3-way tie for the NFC South lead right now, 29-25. The Ravens need a kickoff return or punt return in overtime to beat the LA Rams and get to 10-3 and hold the number one seed in the AFC. The Chicago Bears win for the fifth time in 2023, knock off the Lions, which now closes the gap in the NFC North. Lions have been scuffling here in the last few weeks. Jake Browning with the Cincinnati Bengals has now won 2 games in a row. They beat the Indianapolis Colts 34-14.
There.
Yeah, the app, they showed that on the Manning cast, where a rematch of the Apple Cup, because Jake Browning is from Washington, play University of Washington, and Gardner Minshew from Washington State. Josh will talk more about his Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence miraculously, after what looked like a really bad situation, comes back less than 6 days later and is playing on what was on a high ankle sprain. We'll let him discuss what went down there. Oh, we got a flea flicker, but he underthrew. Oh, he underthrew the pass and he got away with it. Tommy DeVito. New Orleans Saints beat the Panthers, which shocks nobody. The Texans get absolutely worked by the Jets. Zach Wilson had his best half of his career in the second half. I think it was a tie ball game going into halftime, and then the Jets just went off in the second half. They're not in playoff contention, but they get a big victory against a team that's in playoff contention. The Vikings keep themselves in playoff contention and prevent the Niners from locking up a playoff spot by winning 3-0 over the Raiders in Las Vegas. 49ers continue they were 5-0. They lost 3 games, and then they've won 5 consecutive games. They beat the crap out of the Seattle Seahawks, 28-16. Another great performance by Brock Purdy. We'll get into that a little later. I think the game of the week, the one that everyone was really focused on, was Bills Chiefs, and Josh Allen goes in Arrowhead and beats Kermit the Frog. More people are talking about the penalty call on Kadarius Toney and how Kermit the Frog freaked out, and big fat Andrew Ryad also being angry about it. But when you consider how many calls the Kansas City Chiefs have gotten over the past however many years with Kermit the Frog at the helm, it's about time that some of these calls go against them. And so they're now they're at 8-5. They're number 3. They're right there with your boys, Josh. So, oh man, he just stepped on somebody there. Isaiah Hodgins just caught a tutty from chicken cutlets. Oh, now he's doing the celebration. He's doing the Tommy DeVito. Yeah, so that was a big game there. Buffalo stays alive for a playoff, for their playoff lives there. Broncos knock Justin Herbert out of the game, and then
middle finger, index finger.
Or index finger. It would be funnier if it was a middle finger, but it's his index finger. And more or less knocked the Chargers out of the playoffs, out of playoff contention, and Broncos continue to stay in playoff contention. The Dallas Cowboys return the favor, continue, take the blueprint, as Nicholas John Bosa said they gave to everyone, and the Cowboys went out there and opened a can on the Philadelphia Eagles. So now the Niners are the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Cowboys take over the division lead in the NFC East, and the Eagles, as of now, fall to the 5 seed, but they control their own destiny to get back the NFC East or win the NFC East with 4 weeks to go. Dallas does have a much more difficult schedule. The 49ers, of course, have to play 2 divisional matchups, and they have to play the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas Day here in 14 days' time. So, Josh, I'll let you go and talk about the Jags and what took place with them, with their matchup there, losing 31-27 to the Cleveland Browns and Joe Flacco. But I mean, yeah, Joe Flacco did some things, but really that Cleveland Browns defense made things very difficult on the Jaguars offense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot you can go with it, but I mean, you can talk about how Calvin Ridley is not on the same page with Trevor Lawrence here, 14 games into the year, with 4 games left in the season. He's not on the same page. Obviously, they're affected by Christian Kirk being out and everything. And Trevor had 2 bad interceptions, but one was obviously like Calvin Ridley wasn't looking for the ball. And then one was an arm punt, and then the other is like, I don't know why you throw deep when you need a first down on 3rd and 1. You go for a deep shot and get intercepted like that. That's I know they've done that before with against the Bills earlier in the year, but it's just you're in control of the game at that point when you have the afford to do that. You can afford to throw that type of play, but I feel like sometimes it's just better, like especially against a tough defense, it's just better to try to go for the first down on 3rd and short, which also speaks to their inability to run, which I think is the real reason why they're struggling is they can't run the ball right now. And it's it's painfully obvious, and the only way they've been able to do is with finesse and misdirection, as I've been kind of saying on my Twitter account. And I think a lot of people realize that they can't block straight up on running the ball. It's definitely a struggle there. And Travis Etienne he's had 9 touchdowns in the year, but he's only had one 100-yard game, and I think can't count how many there are, but he's had very many games where he's rushed for 60 yards or less, so sub 50-yard games, a bunch of them where he only ran for sub 50 yards. So he's getting a lot of touches as well, although they've lightened the load up as of late. So yeah, those are the offensive miscues, and apparently Calvin Ridley's run the wrong route like in every game this year, which even begs the question if you should even re-sign him for next year, which I'm not going to hate it, but if they do, but they have to they got to get another wide receiver who can catch contested catches, because he's a number 2 wide receiver. He's not a number 1 that can go up and get the ball at the point of attack. And Christian Kirk is also a number 2 guy there that can catch and go type of receiver. So you have two receivers of the same caliber, pretty much. And Zay Jones, who in this offense, he's not a very good wide receiver, but just because of the way this offense is built, again on finesse, it's like this. Prior to the Christian Kirk injury, he wasn't really. It was like important for him to be in the game. So, you got a offense built on finesse and timing rather than being able to, go up straight up and attack defenses, down the field. So, hopefully they fire Press Taylor after the year, but Doug Peterson's too loyal to his guys, so that'll probably just all end up being Doug Peterson firing at the end of next year. So, we'll see how that goes. But defense is the same way. They can't get enough pressure up the middle, they were too aggressive in their game plan against Joe Flacco. I guess they thought they could blitz him heavily and that he would be able to throw it incomplete, which he did on a lot of them. But you have 3 touchdowns where Njoku was wide open and another guy was wide open and went into the end zone untouched, basically. So you have that happen and give up 3 scores like that, really easily. It's hard to win the game. So we'll see how they go against the Ravens, which Lamar Jackson, this is going to be the best team that they faced the entire season, except for the 49ers. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go against them, which they beat last year. So you'd think that this is a beatable game, but based on the way these two teams have played, I think I'd favor the Ravens pretty heavily here. So we'll see. But it's not like the sky is falling completely. I think they still make the playoffs. The ability of them to win the division is still in question because they have a thin lead. It's like it's like we're down to the last quarter of the race here, and we've ran out of adjustments that we can make on the car, and the other guys behind us, they might find something here. So Houston, Indianapolis, both still one game behind, so that's the only positive really you can take away, is that they both lost, and CJ Stroud might be out for a game, so that gives you a buffer there potentially, and Indianapolis still could be in the hunt with Gardner Minshew there, so we'll see how it all ends up playing out, but they'll make the playoffs, but I mean I don't know if they can even win a playoff game because their deficiencies on offense and on defense and everything, and a lot of people were stating the fact that they lost to Joe Burrow or Joe Flacco and Jake Browning, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is they can't generate enough pressure to make them make mistakes in critical moments. So Josh Allen's having a career year, but outside of him, the interior defense has been lacking on the defensive line, and Trayvon Walker is still. I mean, I don't think he's a bad player and everything, and I think he's done all right. But he's just not quite on the same level yet, and I mean, he's definitely performing better than what he did last year, but still not quite there yet for him. But it's more on the interior defense I think would open up things for him. I think, but they got to figure out a way to stop defenses and stop offenses as well. So it's questionable whether they can win a playoff game or not. And I think if they lose a playoff game, they've got to, hopefully that humbles them, and they think they realize that they made a mistake not signing anybody in free agency essentially this year. And I think it's going to be on. I mean, I think they also need to fire Trent Baalke there. So I don't, even if they come out of the season, no matter how they come out of it, whether they make the playoffs, they miss the playoffs, which would be a huge collapse if they did. Maybe that's the best possible outcome for getting rid of management. But whatever the outcome is, I don't know if you can really trust the brain trust to be able to fix the deficiencies in this team. So I'm talking like the sky is falling, but they're a good team. It's just that they're getting carried heavily by Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, and mostly Trevor Lawrence, I think, to a large extent. So we'll see how they play against the Ravens, but at least he's helping me in fantasy, I'll say that. So which I should win and might get the highest score 2 weeks in a row. So we'll see there. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting with this playoff picture. You mentioned Kansas City losing on their game, and I mean that's gotta be the most insufferable that I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes. Maybe more insufferable than Travis Kelce as a person. So we'll see how that is and everything. I mean, just crying over the fact that a guy was lining up off sides, which everybody is basically saying, you were off sides there with Kadarius Toney lining up off sides on offense and everything. So, I mean, you won 2 world championships now. I mean, why cry about, some game that's not going to matter, and then saying that this game affects Travis Kelce's Hall of Fame resume. that's some kind of hyperbole there for Patrick Mahomes. And I think it's all encompassed by, I don't know if you saw this clip, but there's a clip online of the ceiling panel falling during Chris Jones's press conference in the games at the end of the game. So that's just how it looks like. And then he's just like, all right, I'm done. So yeah, that's pretty interesting there. Dolphins in a tight one right now. So if they lose, obviously that could open up the AFC even further, and they're still yet to play the Ravens as well. So you have two games that are could be affected and maybe potentially change up the seeding here in the NFL on the AFC side. So we'll see. And then obviously Brock Purdy for me and Deebo Samuel continue to kill it on offense. So that's helping me a lot. I've been carried by them as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting here the next couple of weeks. And then, I mean, what else? I watched the Cowboys and the Eagles game. I watched that, and looks like the Cowboys are actually good. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But they may potentially win the NFC East out of nowhere. The Eagles have been dominant this entire year, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, this is week 14. Now we're in December, and this is where the best of the best coming out. That's why the Jaguars not playing good in December when you need to be physical and you need to play good defense and you need to be able to run the ball, and they're not doing the things that you need to do well in December to be able to win. So, yeah, that's my NFL thoughts this week, and somehow I'm gonna get into fantasy in the playoffs, and I don't know who I'm gonna face, but it's gonna be interesting next week for sure.
Well, as Jordan Love was throwing a fall away to the right side and threw to some guy I've never heard of, but wasn't able to make that catch in the end zone. Yeah, he was falling away, drifting back, and then 83. He got 1 foot down, but he wasn't able to come down with it. But yeah, all good. A lot of good points you brought up there, Josh. And in terms of it's interesting. Baltimore's upcoming schedule. They're going to be playing your boys. They're going to be playing Miami. They're going to be playing San Francisco. So in all of this, people are talking about Baltimore with the number 1 seed. It's entirely possible that even if Miami were to take an L here with the recent struggles that your Jags have had, and the fact that I think most people that are not Kansas City Chiefs fans are hoping that they won't get the 1 seed, it's all wide open, and it's still a chance. Oh wow, he just went and hurdled that dude. Oh boy. Oh, at least it was right in good for him. And then Tyreek Hill, when did he start taking steroids? Or is it just how his jersey is? It just must be how the jersey is, because he looks like extra yoked out, like he.
Are you talking about Tyreek?
Yeah, Tyreek.
Yeah, I think it's just the jersey.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, for me, of course, with the 49ers, it's the joy comes from the fact that the Seattle Seahawks continue to take L's. That just brings me happiness. It's not as happy as I was when they destroyed Philly last week. That definitely brings me the most joy. But the division more or less is locked up. A big stop by the Giants there oh man, he missed that one. That was such a bad kick too. That wasn't even close. Not only did he not give himself a chance, are you for real? Kirk Cousins is going to be on the show? Ugh. On the Manning cast, but Anders Carlson goes and completely shanks that one. So Green Bay is still down 8 points, and they weren't able to convert in the red zone there. Jordan Love having a rough game tonight. I think Wink Martindale's defense coming through once again against a young quarterback. The Giants basically playing for nothing other than all the PR here in the tri-state area because of Tommy DeVito and all of his Goombas family that he's going to have out there, and chicken cutlets and the whole bit. But for the Niners, Brock Purdy continues to make a case for the MVP. Deebo Samuel was absolutely insane yesterday. And, I mean, Brandon Ayuk just said he cold, man. He just cold, and he's cold-blooded. That's what it is. Deebo is cold-blooded. And little Deebo is his obvious motivation. So they constantly have this 49er media posting videos of him with his son during pregame, dancing with him and how he interacts with his son. And how cool that is, and how he basically is his doppelganger, and he's dressed up in like Jordans and his jersey. So I'm like, oh, this guy is going to be exactly the same guy. It's scary, but it's really cool because he's a baby. You had Christian McCaffrey get another touchdown. George Kittle got a big pass touchdown there on a good slant route there underneath there, and then Ayuk was able to get separation later in the game, do his thing. I mean, it's the common theme here. The questions are more going towards the defense. 16 points given up with Drew Lock at quarterback. They gave up a big drive on the first drive to Drew Lock with DK Metcalf, and then they basically DK Metcalf ceased to exist, and he lost his shit. Fred Warner basically owned him at the end of the game. That was funny. And then Tabor Pepper, the long snapper for the Niners, basically cursed him out in American Sign Language on his way off the field, which is pretty classic. But DK Metcalf, another person who can't handle themselves when things are going a little bit wrong. Miami right now in the red zone trying to take the lead. Tua just slipped. Wow. So yeah, with the 49ers beating Seattle, essentially they have a playoff spot locked up. They'll be playing Arizona this coming weekend, trying to put themselves into the playoffs, lock themselves into the playoffs officially. But yeah, right now they have 4 games to go. They'll play at Arizona on Sunday. That'll be a 4:00 game on CBS, so I'll probably end up having to watch that on my ticket. The Baltimore game will be on Monday Night Football, so obviously I'll be able to watch that one. New Year's Eve, they'll be playing Washington in Washington, 1:00, and then the last week of the season will be against the LA Rams at home in Santa Clara. As it more than likely will be a 4:00 game there, unless the Rams are still in playoff contention, and then in that case it may end up being the Sunday Night Football game, but to be determined with that. 49ers just dominated Seattle. They've more or less put Seattle in a position where they're probably not going to make the playoffs, which is always great for the world. I mean, the Niners offense is at a level that I haven't seen since probably the last time they won the Super Bowl. So it's really crazy to watch how dynamic they are and how they're able to execute in so many different ways, and how Brock Purdy is playing the level that he's playing at. So it's just crazy. The defense, though, defensive tackles, Eric Armstead wasn't playing yesterday. Looks like Javon Hargrave also is hurt. So the interior line is starting to get nicked up. Mooney Ward pulled up out of the game early. So secondary is also having issues. You think about the fact that they already lost Talanoa Hufanga for the season. So that great defense is trying to keep everybody upright is something that we're going to have to look at. They just re-signed Jason Verrett from the practice squad. So he's somebody that, of course, a veteran player, somebody who at one point was an all-pro player. So, but he's had injury issues his whole career. So if he can come in and help on the corner in the cornerback room, that would be a helpful. Of course, they signed Logan Ryan, former Super Bowl winning corner with New England, and Rutgers guy, so New Jersey guy. So of course I'll always be a fan of anyone like that. So Niners are trying to get reinforcements to keep things going that way. So right now we'll get into the current standings. I mean, of course, we still have 12 and a half minutes to go. Oh man, Bradley Chubb almost got him there. But in the AFC first, the Baltimore Ravens are at 10-3, number 1 seed right now after their win against the Rams. The Dolphins, if they were to win, would go and move ahead of the Ravens. Otherwise, they would fall to 9-4 if they were to lose. Kansas City falls to 8-5 with their loss to the Bills. Jacksonville is also at 8-5 with their loss to Cleveland. In terms of the wild cards right now, the Cleveland Browns are the 5 seed at 8-5, and they're 2 games behind the Ravens. Pittsburgh Steelers, even with their loss to New England, stay in the playoff hunt at 7-6, and the Colts are at 7-6, even though they lost to the Bengals. Texans lose, but they're outside, so they're one of 6 teams that are at 7-6. Steelers, Colts, Texans, Broncos, Bengals, and Bills in that order right now. Essentially, that's where we're at. More or less, everybody after that is probably toast. The Chargers, if they don't have Justin Herbert, it doesn't really matter. Even with Justin Herbert, they're not winning games. The Raiders, after that initial run with Antonio Pierce, the reality is they're the Raiders. The Jets, with Zach Wilson, get that big win for his career, but that's not going anywhere. And the Titans, they need to win tonight to basically keep their hopes alive. They're tied at 13 right now with under 11 minutes to go. Tennessee takes over with the ball. Right now, the only team eliminated out of the AFC is the New England Patriots. Even with their win on Thursday, they are eliminated out of playoff contention, and they're 2 games behind Carolina for the number 1 pick, which would end up going to the Chicago Bears because the Carolina Panthers traded the number 1 pick, their number 1 picks, to Chicago for the right to take their quarterback. I keep on forgetting their quarterback's name because he sucks so bad. In the NFC side, the 49ers have taken over the number 1 seed in the NFC with their victory against Seattle, and the Cowboys beating the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys now take the lead in the NFC East and have moved up to the number 2 seed. Lions, even though they've been scuffling, don't lose any positions. They stay at 9-4. So interestingly, even for as bad as they've been playing recently, they're only a game out of a possibility of contending for the number 1 seed there. Tampa Bay in a 3-way tie in the NFC South for the lead there, so they make a huge jump. They right now would hold that divisional lead and would host a playoff game if they were to win the division. Philadelphia falls from the 1 to the 5 with their second consecutive loss. And we have to see what's going to happen with them. They do have to play the Giants twice. People are speaking about how they have the easiest schedule to finish the year. But the way the Giants have been playing over the past couple weeks and how they're playing right now tonight with 5:50 to go in this game, I'm not so sure that the Eagles may not have some issues playing against the Giants twice here in 4 weeks. Oh man, big pass breakup there. So the other two teams right now that are in the playoff hunt right now, or in the playoffs as things stand, the Vikings, after their mediocre performance against the Raiders, they're 7-6. The Packers right now are 6-6, but pending the result here, there are an additional, if they were to lose the Packers, they're going to now make another field goal attempt of 48 yards this time. This time it was actually decent, and it's good. So the Green Bay Packers are now down by 5 with 5.5 minutes to go. So Raheem Mostert limping a little bit. And yeah, DeAndre Hopkins showing Will Levis the route, whatever, I guess, trying to figure out why he ain't throwing to him, because of course when you're number one wide receiver, you want to know why your quarterback ain't throwing to you. The Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, and Saints are all at 6-7. So they're all right now could be a game out of that final playoff spot. You look at Minnesota, they're only a game ahead of that, and they don't even have a quarterback. The Bears are actually 5-8, and the Giants, if they were to win tonight, would be at 5-8. So they aren't really out of it. It's with that last playoff spot. I mean, it's going to be tough, but they would all be in the mix there. So, though, oh man, he just threw a hospital ball there. Commanders were off this week along with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, for all intents and purposes, they're done. Both teams are done. Cardinals, they don't know what their identity is or what they're trying to do. They have a new coach, but I think they're going to end up moving on from Kyler Murray. That's something that has to be in play. The Washington General Redskin Commanders are going to do a total rebuild, and they're going to get knocked out of the playoffs here next week. Arizona, they get to play the 49ers, so if they play the 49ers next week, more than you would assume, but you can't ever assume anything. The Arizona Cardinals usually play the 49ers very tough, so they can't make any assumptions on that end. So that is a playoff circumstance there. Before we move forward, get into the Fall Brawl League. Right now, Josh would end up being the high point scorer this week.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row to end the regular season, 217 points. I'm second at 204.65, in large part because Jordan Love is playing a horrendous game. But credit to Josh and also having Brock Purdy and Deebo Samuel. That'll help. As it stands right now, Island of Irrelevant. Yeah, so right now the teams that are winning, Manny just got a first down. Oh, big run for Saquon Barkley. The turf monster got him. He was down. He was down. Like, how are you going to go and... He was down before the ball came out. So how are you... Oh, he just ran back the other way. Oh, they missed that tackle. Oh, boy. Wow, they're going to say that he wasn't down? he was down there. Oh man, so they're gonna end up having to go and replay all of that. So right now
can't cause a fumble.
Yeah, well, the turf monster, yeah, you're right. That is right. Yeah, because nobody touched him, but he fumbled the ball. Oh man, that is huge. That was going to be the game too. He was falling over, and he laid the ball down. Oh, that is bad. Barkley had been playing a solid game here. Barkley had run for, well, he has 2 rushing touchdowns. That's all you can say about his night. He only had 31 yards rushing, plus whatever the hell this last play that he had that they haven't put up on Stat Tracker, but the Tommy DeVito actually has 71 yards rushing and 105 yards. Okay, there you go. So there you go. He just had passed Tommy DeVito. He had 17 attempts for 81 yards, but he just laid the ball down there. Only his 3rd career fumble. Man, that is insane. So Barkley had 81 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he lays the ball down and gives the Green Bay Packers a chance in the 4th quarter here to possibly come back and get a go-ahead touchdown, go-ahead score.
That's unbelievable.
And then Miami driving, tied at 13. Green Bay is inside the 30-yard line right now with 3:13 to go. A.J. Dillon plotting like, oh man. Jordan Love has 198 yards and an interception, 22 to 34. Jordan Love only has 0 yards rushing because he's gotten sacked and whatever. If things stay as they are, I would end up, my team would make the playoff. Josh will also make the playoffs. Luke would be the number 1 overall seed, but he would lose. And let me go over here. So the team, so he would lose the last 2 weeks, but because he had already given himself a big cushion at 11-1, it didn't matter. Vic would lose here as well to Matt, which is crazy. Matt is had a rough season, but he'll go and win the final week of the season. He'll be tailback, but what is that? Oh, is that a turnover? Oh, that was a punt. Oh, he muffed the punt. Oh man. So Tennessee, Miami punts the ball. The Tennessee, he interfered with them. So, oh man. And then Green Bay is they're in the red zone. I need to change a channel here. I want to change a channel, but then Miami is in the red zone trying to score, and I have Raheem Mostert, so I don't know which one I'm supposed to be watching. Yeah, so Vic is going to lose, Luke is going to lose, but they're both going to end up having the first round buys in our league. As it stands, by a difference of 43 points. Oh, Mostert. Oh, God. 43 points. I will end up being losing out on the number 3 seed So that means Steve would end up playing Joe in the first round of the playoffs, and that would mean that my 4 quarters of tenderness team would play Josh's Bold City Brigade, and he reached over for it. That's a touchdown. Raheem Mostert, what is it, his 17th touchdown of the season? I think that's a 17th touchdown of the season for Raheem Mostert or something like that. You were talking about that on Sirius Radio earlier. They're going to say he was down, right? Yeah, they'll say he's down. Yeah.
Take that off the board.
They'll say he's down, but the tip of the ball crossed. Oh no, they're not going to overturn it. All right.
So that stands?
It looks like it stands because the kicker is still out. Oh no, they haven't set up yet, but is he actually debating, thinking about going for 2, or is he going to? Okay, so now they're back in the Green Bay game. Oh, Romeo Dubs with that. Good Lord, that was a good job in body control there, but he couldn't get both feet down. Oh man, he couldn't get both feet down. Damn it. That was such a good play though. Yeah, Manny right now has Jalen Waddle and Saquon Barkley. That fumble is probably going to be the reason why it holds up, because it's 2 minutes to go. They aren't going to be able to run the ball. Yeah, so Miami takes the lead. They're now up 20-13. Oh man, that's a big first down by Green Bay. And what's his face? I'm forgetting his name. Jalen Reed, who left him on the bench. Another guy left on the bench. And Ritter, I didn't know Ritter was going to have one of his best games of his career, but whatever. Right now, that would mean that we'd be playing each other next week. And Jeff would get knocked out of the playoffs in the process. He was in the playoff, but now he'd get knocked out after losing to Joe. So Joe, it was a win and get in scenario. Joe basically gets in. He wins with, it's not like anybody really did amazing. Russell Wilson was his high point scorer. Tony Pollard, Williams, Javonte Williams, the running back combo did some work. He got good points from his IDPs, which helps. Jeff got he got screwed because Justin Herbert got hurt. Mike Evans was non-existent, and DeAndre Swift was shut down.
Derrick Henry just fumbled the ball. Oh.
I didn't see that because the Manning cast is on the Green Bay game, but yeah, that is a big problem for.
Yeah, Levis pitched it back. Oh. Yeah,
that's not good. And Tennessee's, that's man.
Yep. Oh.
So instant red zone opportunity. I feel like I'm Scott Hansen. It's now the witching hour, where wins become losses and losses become wins. I feel like I'm sitting here doing red zone. That almost was the touchdown to get ahead in this ball game, but Miami, I have to keep it on this game though. That's what would be the case here. What more than likely we'd be playing each other, Josh. And in my other league that I've won a couple of times, I'll still be the number 1 seed. won't end up winning this week, but I'll have a bye. Oh my God, that is so bad. That is so effing bad. How do you do that? Oh man, just the end of this game, the muffing of the punt, which I think was interference anyway, but they didn't call that. Then that play, yeah, that is really effing bad. I'll be the number 1 seed in this league, so I'll have a bye. I have a third redraft league that I'm going to be in the playoffs as a number 4 seed as well. The Dynasty League that I'm in, I'm going to end up missing the playoffs. I have to wait till these games end, but I think for all intents and purposes we're done. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, I guess before we move towards your, I mean, I think we'll talk about that more. The Caleb Williams Drake May situation I'll talk about later because I'll be more relevant once we come back from our break here in a couple weeks' time. But in terms of, yeah, before we move towards, is that another one? Did he get another one?
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, so Raheem Mostert in like the last 5 minutes in real time has just scored 2 touchdowns. Damn it, we just need to get 2 more of them. Oh, he just took out the referee there. He got it. He lost his helmet. He's losing his mind. And Green Bay, after what has been an absolutely abominable performance. Oh man, he got both feet down and he nailed the pylon. That's 1, 2. Oh, he didn't have control. Are they going to say he didn't have full control? But so I would have ended up beating, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in this league, but unfortunately I'm playing one of the other 6 teams that wouldn't. So Jordan Love gets, okay, so now alright, so now all of a sudden, oh shit, oh wow, so I'm actually within 3 point, or was it 5? Yeah. So or 13 to 4.25, 4.35 points behind you in this in the top points thing. Oh, he handed it off. That's not going to count for anything, and that just went nowhere. Oh man, wow. So yeah, so right now, so now Green Bay is up by 1. The Giants can get in a field goal range and still win the football game. Miami Dolphins, after what has been a very tight ball game, more than likely have now locked up that game and probably put Tennessee out to pasture. So I mean, I guess we can talk about it. We can do a little preview here. For me, I have Lamar Jackson. Jordan Love did not have a great night tonight, but he got bailed out there late. I have Brandon Ayuk, so I have the blocker in terms of with Brock Purdy there. I have a 3-headed running back monster in Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, and Rachaad White. My IDP players have been pretty mediocre outside of my linebacker play. I'm probably going to end up having to drop Blankenship finally. He's not played well recently, and Will Anderson put up a donut. I have Jalen Reed and Desmond Ridder and some of these other guys, but that's my core. You have Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy at the quarterback positions. your IDPs played really well. You have Wilson from Cincinnati and Micah Parsons, who I didn't know Micah Parsons goes as he has defensive line eligibility.
He's a DL linebacker.
Yeah. Oh wow. So that's good. So then and you have L'Jarius Sneed. You also have you have the double. You have the
I have my quarterback running back combo, and I have your quarterback wide receiver running back combo.
Yeah.
So
that's basically what it is. And then you have Michael Pittman and Kenneth Walker. You also have Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper. So that's another quarterback wide receiver combo. And then Garrett Wilson, Devin Singletary, and Tyler Boyd. So there's so there's that. So I mean, I can go and look back here just out of curiosity. A lot of this has been announcing the Shohei Ohtani is deferring 97% of his $700 million salary. The hell?
Yeah, I saw that one, and I'm like, okay, what's happening? Because I've seen that is like, okay, so how is that even possible? So you're basically just like taking the money, but then like, oh yeah, here, I'll defer it to the team so that so the team continue to sign people. Like, how does that work? That's like, so you're not really having a $700 million contract. Like,
oh, that is a huge play. Yeah, I don't know how that's possible, but that's where all them business people are. So Green Bay just gave up a big play. DeVito with a huge completion to Wan'Dale Robinson. They let him go free down the sideline. Going to go back into the season here. So we only played once, actually. I thought we had played twice.
Normally we play twice.
Yeah, so that because of the way the math worked, because we play round robin one time and then we end up being able to play 4 teams a second time. So this year, in the round robin, we didn't play each other twice. I played Steve, Jeff, Matt, and Manny, and Wilson. So yeah, we played in week 7. I won that matchup. Trying to look back at that. I can go back and I have to go back and look at that more. We'll go back to week 7 and see that. Lamar Jackson had 52 points. They killed Detroit. Puka Nacua and Amon-Ra St. Brown had like 51 points between the two of them. Alvin Kamara had a great game. Jordan Love lost to Denver but put up a good number. That was one of the only weeks where my IDPs actually did something. All of them. Okerke, Granderson, and Ford. You had productive. You got Chris Jones put up a donut for you. You had Ray McLeod.
It was because Debo was out, so I was trying.
Yeah, so you put in Ray because that was the game where I think that was the last game that Kirk Cousins actually played this year. Trevor Lawrence had a solid game and a win. Pittman, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, Mark Andrews, Brock Purdy. Oh, they get another touchdown, so they're still in that game. L'Jarius Sneed and Nick Bolton, but was too much, mainly because of Lamar. I think 4 or 5 guys It was it's a different matchup now. We're in December. I think it's liable to be much closer. So we'll see what happens for sure. 49er, of course, being that, minus my obvious bias because of being a 49er fan. I know that I have Ayuk, but then you have Debo, so we'll see what happens. It always seems to be a competitive matchup, so we'll see what goes on with that. So right now, Randy Bullock coming out to kick a game-winning field goal for the New York Giants.
Titans are going for 2, and they just got it, so wow.
So now the Titans, I don't know how many timeouts they have with 2:40 to go. But it's still it's a one possession game, 4-point game. I guess they'll be going for an onside. And Randy Bullock wins the game for the Giants. And the Giants have now won 3 games in a row. The Green Bay Packers fall to 6-7, and they are now in a mix with 5 teams for that last playoff spot. The Giants are only a game out of the 7th playoff spot all of a sudden. Mr. Chicken Cutlets himself.
Tommy DeVito. Go home and get a nice home-cooked meal.
Yeah, Goomba, yeah, Tommy DeVito. And then, are they going for the onside, or they're kicking it deep? Because they don't have any timeouts. So, they don't have any timeouts. They're going to kick it deep, and they're going to take their chances.
Oh, the Titans, they have a timeout. They have all 3 timeouts left.
Oh, okay. But then it shows that they didn't get the 2-point convert, or were they down? Was it 20? Did they have 19?
No, it was 13-27. So they got the 2. So now it's 21.
Yeah. Okay, so it is a 1 possession game. So it is a 6-point game. So they're kicking to Miami. Miami has 1 timeout, it looks like, and yes, they wouldn't be kicking off if they didn't have timeouts. So all right. So so Josh will since we've been sitting here basically giving play-by-play of Monday Night Football, they need to make a stop here, the Titans. That saves you there, so you're going to end up getting high points this week. The only thing that could affect it, actually, interestingly, is if Miami, for some reason, decides to throw the ball to Jalen Waddle. That's the only thing that could happen.
Yeah, if they chucked it up to him and he got a big touchdown or something, it would wipe it out.
Big play. Yeah, but I don't think that's going to be the case. But let us hear what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming in your sim segment.
Yeah, I mean, this is iRacing 2024 Season 1. So finally, I finally got back into A-Class in the ovals, which I usually am an A-Class driver, A licensed driver there, but every time I try plate racing or anything like that, I always get taken out or something. Like I have a pretty good success rate in the 87 cars, but I know in the other series that I try, I always end up getting taken out somehow and ends up not working out as well. So I always lose points there, and I got demoted to B class, and then I have to work my way back in. So I finally got now with I've been racing pretty well, and now with the new season on the horizon, they've promoted me back into A class on the oval side. So got that there, and then also the road side got promoted into B class there. So been trying to work better on the oval and both sides, but the road racing definitely feel a lot more comfortable there. So that got back into the right license class there that I feel like I'm good in. So it opens up a little bit more series for me. So Cup Series Class A back in the next gens, which they're racing at the old Kentucky Motor Speedway before the repave there. B Class Cup Series at Texas Motor Speedway 2009. Draft Masters is at Daytona again. In the truck, I think this is just a recurring. Yeah, this is just a recurring series. Like it goes every week. So they start out on the truck series, Daytona. So did that again. So that was a good series to open setup. The Formula Fords at Okayama Circuit again. Legends car, the 87 car at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then the Winter iRacing 87 car is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. IndyCar B Series, which I have not been able to participate in for a while. It's at Watkins Glen in the boot layout. There, the Toyota GR86 series at Limemark Park. And the Dallara IR01 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Their Street Stocks also at Charlotte. Truck Series at Michigan before the repave 2009. There, the Cup Series Charlotte Motor Speedway. The ARCA Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway as well. So got a lot of good set of tracks here for this first week here in iRacing 2024. So go on there. Gen 4 at Rockingham as well. So it should be interesting this first couple of weeks here on the server. Get to try out all the new updates that have been implemented for 2024. Still waiting on the long awaited rain update to come out. So looks like we'll have an opportunity at some point next year to race in the rain here. And also the Titans got the ball back here on the other side of the 2-minute warning. And they got a good field position as well. So, and they look like they're driving, so still in it here. So, I'll probably try to do something here this week, maybe on iRacing here. So definitely got a lot of good tracks for me. I feel like here that I definitely like. And they're in the red zone too, so that's interesting there too. So, and on 2-minute warning. So, of course, iRacing at different tracks that I can do. I'll be if I stream always at UCO2 on iRacing on Twitch. So go on there and watch. And of course Twitter, which been pretty active, trying to go in there, give my brief opinions, which I've expanded on quite well on here on this show at JP Huffine on there, and then of course this show at YouTube, Gripster Podcast. So go on there and watch all our streams. We try to upload those every week. So go on there and subscribe and like our videos and comment. So of course, been interesting here. Looking forward to playing you in the playoffs, I guess, here. So best of luck. And it's gonna be an interesting one with Jacksonville and Baltimore both playing in the same game next week. So it's gonna be a pretty big matchup there. Looking forward to watch.
Yeah, definitely, and it'll be a tough first round matchup. Wouldn't expect anything else. Been an interesting year for us in the league. So the fact that it came down to the final week of the season, and a lot of us were having to win to get in. So it's pretty cool, but it's still going to be hard to keep on advancing and moving up and trying to beat Luke and Vic, who were able to kind of impart their dominance earlier in the season and use that to kind of hold on there. But we'll definitely talk about it next week on what will be episode 200, which is crazy to think. Last episode of 2023, or last episode before our holiday break, will be big number 200. Will be the recap, the year in review for the GSP and kind of talk about all kinds of motorsports, see if we can get an extra person on the panel. But before that, you can find me at PGMatthew28 on Twitter. You can find us at GripStripPod on Twitter. You can find the GripStrip podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Podbean, which is our host site, and then you can find it at philipgmatthew.com. And then, we'll talk next week about the year in review, all things in motorsports, football, playoff race, getting down to the end in our last month of the regular season in the NFL, and Christmas and New Year's plans and all that. And we'll talk about that all the next week. Thanks as always to you, Josh, being my sidekick and right-hand man. Great job. A lot of great thoughts, and as always, tonight. And for myself and Josh, we'll be back next week for episode 200 of GripStrip Podcast. And we'll see you then.